So we are here with Chris Avellone, the creative director of
Obsidian Entertainment.
Hello,
how are you doing?
And we're just doing a quick interview. So, Chris, what's the hardest part about starting a new franchise? We know you worked on the Fallout series and everything like that. So.
The hardest part is trying to figure out what game pillars you actually want the game to have. Like, what are the most important system mechanics that you want to deliver to the player in terms of ambience, gameplay experience, and just the overall feel of the game.
And we know that everyone has the ability to make a game. Like, everyone has access to Game Maker or a Trial of Unity.
Which is great.
And
that certainly wasn't the case for a long period of time. So I'm actually glad that those tools are out there. And then also there's a means to actually distribute those games once you finish them, because 10 years ago that was not the case. But it's allowed for a lot more new developers. I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, enough of my tangents. Please finish your. Can I finish my question, please?
So with accessibility like that, how do you create something original when everything is pretty much flooded with indie developers?
Well, actually, you still can create original content. I do think that there's the problem that you indicate, where there is so much stuff out there. It's really hard to say, hey, notice me. But I think that when people have an innovative mechanic or something that stands out, you just got to give it some time and people will latch onto it.
So we know you worked on the Fallout series, and how did you go about creating a world that, in essence, is empty, but its characters and its landscapes and its lore is so robust?
So to clarify, so I actually was not the torch holder for Fallout, so I'll discuss what their methodology was. So first off, they decided an overall, they started with a very general premise, like, hey, you know what, we want to do sort of a post-apocalyptic game, but we wanted to have kind of a twist to it, so it's not just, oh, bombs fell and now everyone's trying to survive. So the unusual thing they did, which I thought worked really, really well, is one of their pillars was, hey, you know, this was a world that is what people in the 1950s imagined the future would be like, and then they dropped the bombs on it, which I thought ended up making for a much more interesting experience. It's where Vault Boy came from, because he kind of looks like the Monopoly character, for example. And that was kind of one of their guiding principles. And then once you have a world like that, where those pillars have been sort of like set up front for the designers, it's actually not too hard to create content. Those things actually help guide you down a road to actually, well, here's how we communicate aspects of that world. So they did a very good job of laying that out for us.
And then how do you create unique characters? And do you ever worry about if they'll be received well or not?
So one mistake that I've seen with creating characters is people try and make every single character unique. And you shouldn't do that. What you want to do is have a supporting cast that makes those major NPCs more interesting. Like their actions and their dialogue and their quests actually feed into a much larger figure, like Kaisar in Caesar's Legion, or Mr. House in Vegas. Like all the crime families revolve around Mr. House, and they're designed to support him. So. When you want to create a unique character, though, one of the best techniques that I've found is find a way for sort of the player to selfishly get involved, where obviously that major character is reacting to the player and things that he's done, and immediately players get more interested when, like, hey, this guy's responding to stuff that I've done in the environment. Wow, I'm feeling really important. And but that's one of them. That's one of the methods. Yeah.
And then, what do you think is a good skill to master if you're planning on creating a video game? Would it be writing? Would it be level design, or anything like that?
Programming's pretty good. So I am not a great programmer. I have occasionally scripted like cutscenes, but generally having a good sense of scripting and sort of a logical follow through for how a player might approach a quest from any direction is a very valuable skill for a game designer to have.
And then, how did you get your start in the gaming industry?
So I got rejected many times. I was a game master for a very lazy group of players that would never ever actually run a game, and I really wanted to play a game, but the only way to do it was be a game master. So I spent like 10 years doing that. I had this whole stack of material that I was like, well, I could either throw this away or try and submit it. And I did like 30 submissions, and then like the 31st submission, someone's like, oh man, you send us all that annoying shit, like and we have this opening, can you just do something to fill out the portfolio? And we're like, sure. I'm like, sure, yeah, it sounds great. Thanks for making me feel valued. And then I submitted it, they published it, and then after that, I got more and more work. And then I got an introduction to Interplay out in California, and they flew me out as a junior designer, and I got the job, and then I just started working from there. My advice is just don't give up. just keep pushing because eventually someone will have a position for you. Just keep swinging.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.